Buenos días a todos y bienvenidos a 2024 anual Conéctate Reunión. Mi nombre es José Abrego Meléndez. Estoy muy orgulloso para estar aquí con ustedes. I'm sorry I'm out of breath. I ran across the stage right now, so please forgive me and everybody online, but a little sweaty up here. So pass it over to my good companion, Juan.
Hello and good morning, everyone. I'm Juan Avalos. I'm a student here, and right now I would like to welcome EOU's very own president, Dr. Kelly Ryan. And before EOU, she was interim chancellor of Indiana University Southeast in New Albany, Indiana.
Yay, thank you. I dropped one of my beverages already over there. I'm a 2-beverage gal. I've got my water and my coffee. Bienvenidos, buenos dias. Welcome, good morning. We're really happy to see you here today. We are just thrilled to host the event this year, and we're just so happy that you made time for this today. We know that this is a really important moment. Conéctate brings our community together in Eastern Oregon, and it's just so important that we make space and time for that, even though it is hard on our very busy lives. Our distance in terms of communities in Eastern Oregon makes moments like this even more important. We should never let that distance divide us. These are really important moments for us to come together and figure out ways to be the most successful people we can be. Last year was my first year at Eastern Oregon University. And we put Conéctate on my schedule last year, so I traveled over to Blue Mountain Community College to take part in the event, and I was so absolutely blown away by what I saw there. I danced. I sang. I listened. I chatted. I ate a lot, and I just had a good time being in conversation. The sessions were really fantastic, and I was so impressed with the willingness of students, faculty, and staff to just be giving and sharing and being open to learning and hearing about new ideas. It's my greatest hope that this event brings the same opportunities for you. And just in case there's no dancing on the schedule today, shall we? Shall we all get up and do maybe a quick twirl? Come on, people, join me. Stand up and do a quick twirl. Thank you. Mission accomplished. Of course, today, I really want you to have fun. Building pathways to success and prosperity, boy, that sounds like a lot of hard work. But when it's done in community, it lightens the load and it broadens the impact. I hope you share what happened today. I hope you make new friends today. And I hope that your new plans inspire you. So welcome, and we are so happy to have you. Thank you.
One second, please. Okay, well, can we give another round of applause for Kelly Ryan, please? Thank you so much for setting the tone and being here with us today. It means a lot for Conéctate. I would like now to transition over to our keynote speaker. One second again. It is now my pleasure and honor to introduce George Mendoza and ask him to please come to the podium. I'll do a quick introduction for Mr. Mendoza. But Mr. Mendoza is entering his 8th year as the superintendent of the LeGrand School District. Prior to his, round of applause for that. Prior to his current post with the LeGrand School District, he was Assistant Superintendent of Morrow County School District. Mr. Mendoza has 28 years of education experience from teaching elementary schools to various administrative building and district-wide assignment throughout K-12 education. George is an Eastern Oregon University alumni, me too, and has worked in several Eastern Oregon communities for most of his education career. He deeply understands the culture and barriers to education for students and families in Eastern Oregon and throughout the state. Mr. Mendoza currently sits as on the Board of Trustees for Eastern Oregon University as the board chair. He is the 4A representative of the Oregon School Activities Association State Executive Board and is a superintendent advisor for the state Oregon's Board of Education. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Trustee George Mendoza.
Hola. Okay, I'm going to do this in English. English has now become my dominant language. I will share that I was born in Mexico, and I came to the United States when I was 2 years old. And then over time, my dominant language became English. I will ask that you be vulnerable while I do this presentation. I did it in a workshop format. So my plan was to make you speak and engage with each other, talk to each other, get to know each other a little bit better. And then the reality is, the theme for me, wealth building, financial, cultural heritage, educational pathways for thriving Latinx communities in rural Oregon. I just felt like you're going to hear a little bit of my life story, but then I want you to talk about your life story and see how that interconnects into how we can make better communities, okay? So I do think that part of the journey is like knowing yourself. So there's the personal side of knowing who you are, knowing your culture, knowing your race, knowing your history, knowing your heritage, knowing your values, all of those types of things. And then the next part is interpersonal relationships, how you get along with others, how you know others, how they know you, how you work with each other. And then it becomes the systems, and then it becomes the structures of how things work in societies and how we make things better together. So that's more of my lived life experience. So I'm going to do different activities around that for us, okay? Can you move to the next slide deck? I'm going to also get down on this floor here so I can move around. And I do want you to talk. I do want you to engage. I want us to share some ideas. Juan is going to, once in a while, move around, and he's going to get the microphone next to you so that when you have something to share, it gets shared, and then it gets also, I guess this is being recorded if you didn't know, so there's going to be times where what you say is going to be on air, I guess, or recorded, so just know that. Okay, so for me, this made a lot of sense. About 6 years ago, I was on the Early Learning Council for the state of Oregon. And in the Early Learning Council, which is more 0 to 5 year old services that happen for children, for toddlers, for preschool, for infants and toddlers, they showed this slide to me. And I hope that you can get a copy of this slide deck through Mika at some point. But they had the personal, in terms of race and in terms of equity, the personal journey, which is what I just shared, knowing who you are, knowing your race, knowing your values, knowing your culture, knowing your history. And then the next level is the interpersonal, the things that I just shared, those relationships, those connections, those I understand you and you understand me, and we care for each other. And then it gets into the institutional or the policies, the practices, the procedures, how things work in organizations, and how you can make things change for the better if things aren't working correctly, or you can enhance them. And then the structural, basically a lot of our systems, healthcare systems, education systems, transportation systems, banking systems, all these other structural things that sometimes work or don't work to our favor or to our advantage. So that's an important context, or that's an important frame that I want you to realize that helped me see better about the work that I was doing or the work that others can do together to make things better for society. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. All right. So now I want you to reflect. I want you to use your cell phones or paper if you have it. Use something to write down some thoughts. Okay, you're going to reflect on your personal information. You got 5 minutes. You're going to be able to think about, write down your name. Your name has a lot of meaning, by the way. There's a reason you were named the way you were named, if you didn't know that. Your parents had a lot of thought put into your name. A lot of it is history, a lot of it is culture, a lot of it is heritage. There's a lot of reasons why you were called who you are. So you're going to think about your name and about your culture, a little bit about your history on this planet, where you grew up, where you were raised, some of your family dynamics, where you were educated, where you came from. You can share a little bit about your family, a little bit about your values, what motivates you, what fulfills you. What do you think, what is your lived life experience that brought you here? I want you to be able to share that. Think about that, reflect on that. And then after about 5 minutes, I'm going to do about 2.5 minutes. One person shares to their partner next to them, and then the other person listens, and then after the 2.5 minutes, the other person shares, and then the other person listens. So if you're really close to each other, I'm sorry, and if you're going to be like hearing other people talking and stuff, so if you do need to spread out, you can, so that you can better connect with your partner, but you have about 5 minutes. I am going to ask you to talk to each other, by the way. Because I want to move us along, we'll have 1 more minute for you to write down anything, and then we'll do the pair share with each other. All right, team, we don't need to be perfect, so don't worry about it. It's really just about being a little bit vulnerable and sharing with each other. I want you to get with your elbow partner or somebody next to you and start talking a little bit with each other about what your reflections are on your life.
Do you need us real quick? We're going to connect with Mika, if that's okay. While they talk and everything, we'll be right back. Okay, appreciate it.
Okay, you should be talking to the other person. It's the other person's turn. If it's only one person's talk, it's the other person's turn. The number 2 person should be talking now. All right, team, high five. High five, a little bit of teacher. Thank you. We don't have a lot of time with each other. I'm really glad that you're communicating, though. I'm going to just do this quick kind of reflection. Julie, if you don't mind sharing, what did you get out of this experience so far?
I don't know, Cassandra and I work together, so we spend a lot of time together, but I think it was just really cool. We were sharing, like, what motivates us and what fulfills us and how that can tie into our jobs and make us better people. So I think that's kind of a big takeaway that I took from right now, our quick little conversation.
Love it. Thank you. All right. If you don't mind. So far, what impact has this done for you?
For me personally, I think it helped me realize how much we lose when family moves from one country to another. I think we kind of had that in common, where our parents didn't know much, so we don't know much, and then it kind of gets lost in history.
Okay, for you, Sarah, any reflections, any thoughts on this activity?
It's really hard to do in 2 minutes. I thought it was really cool to think about how connections can mean so many different things. And it can mean traveling a long ways just to find out what it means to come to something that's called Get Connected. But also like the connections to your family history and just thinking about that.
Thank you. So I'll just share again that when you reflect on you and who you are, and you know it, that's very powerful. And then when you do get to share that with others, and others share that with you, that's part of the journey. That's how you create, I'll just say, improvement or growth or change for the better. These are strategies that I'm telling you, I guess in my 50 years of life, this is how it works in general, at least in Eastern Oregon or Eastern Washington, where I've lived. It's a lot of relationships. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of collaboration. It's a lot of knowing who you are and knowing who they are and working with them. And that's how things happen better. Because you can hammer people, but I'll tell you what, once people get hammered, they don't want to be around you very much. They don't want to play because they're getting hammered. So you have to learn to collaborate and communicate and share ideas and share your lived life experience and listen to theirs and find common ground where you can. Okay, so that bottom section, to me also, if you know what fulfills you, if you know what motivates you, if you know what makes you happy, you'll likely, and if you live life in alignment to that, you'll probably be pretty happy, or you'll find success. We'll go to the next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to share some things again. And I would just say again, this is a little deeper than where you were at, but I'm going to be vulnerable in giving you some of my layers. And then we're not going to do this where you share this with others, but I do want you to write down some of your layers because I think it's impactful again for our journey and how we make things better for society. So I'm a 1980s immigrant. Came to the United States, migrated, lived in the Yakima Valley of Washington. Started out in Granger, moved to Wapato, went to Sunnyside for a little bit, then settled in Prosser, graduated from Prosser, came over here to Eastern Oregon, came to the university. Then I went to Ontario, started my career in Ontario. Then I went back to Pasco, became a principal in Pasco. Then I went to Boardman, Morrow County, became the assistant superintendent in Morrow County. Then I came over here to LeGrand. I'm male, I'm Mexican, I was raised Catholic. I came from Eastern Washington. Came from poverty and divorce. My parents divorced when I was in 4th grade. My mom moved back to Mexico. My dad stayed in the United States. I felt abandoned most of my life because of that. I went from dreaming and thinking only in Spanish to now shifting over to dreaming and thinking mainly in English. I think of myself as friendly or positive or optimistic and caring. That's how I view me. I was athletic. I'm still athletic, at least I think I am. I assimilated. At the time that I was born, my parents were, you speak English. My parents weren't try to keep speaking Spanish. My parents wanted me to become more Americanized. My teachers called me George in 1st grade. And by the time I was in 1st grade, they were teaching me or telling me how to spell my name from Jorge to George. And that was instilled in my brain when I was very young. He, him, his. I was good at basketball, good at football. I played football here, had a great career here. Still hold some records here. So mentors, coaches, teachers shaped my life and influenced me. That's why I wanted to be a teacher, because of the way that people treated me when I was a young boy as a student and as an athlete. I learned that I loved helping children when I was young. I knew that that gave me a sense of purpose or a sense of joy, and that made me feel like I was living my life in alignment to what God had intended for me. Went to Eastern Oregon. I met my wife, who's white and Native American. She's Cherokee. I became an educator and a coach. I've lived more of a Mexican-American life with my children. I have 4 children. I have a beautiful boy that's an athlete here at Eastern Oregon University. And I think they think of themselves as Mexican-American, or maybe even American-Mexican. They've been raised middle class. We've grown up middle class. I think of myself as trying to be great with my children, being a good father, being a good husband. That's how I think of me. I I think of families and friends and love, loving people and mentoring people. Those are my mindset's almost like that. Take care of your family, take care of your friends, love people, mentor people, be a coach. I think of my life as trying to be a coach a lot. Non-denominational Christian. So that in terms of that, that's like Calvary Chapel. Spiritual. I'm more spiritual than I am religious now. If you were to ask me to quote scriptures and do these different things, I can quote some, but I think of relationships now and looking after people, supporting them. I still love nature. I love LeGrand. I love the trees. I love the mountains. I love the natural resources. I love the hikes. I love to golf. I still like to move. If you were to think of me, I'm more of a centrist, pragmatic person. I'm not way over here. I'm not way over here. I'm somewhere right here. And I love access and opportunity and removing barriers and removing obstacles for people. But I like systems. I like structure. I like order. I like law. I like guidelines. I like routines. I like accountability. Because I think that usually is where you create the most growth. I am a moderate Democrat. I choose typically relationships over programs and relationships over politics. And I usually think when we can do things together, that's where we create the most change. Although I would say sometimes people need to hear this side of me. If you make me choose like a rule or a law, and then instead you want me to choose a relationship and I have to follow a rule or a law, and you're a superintendent, you'll choose making sure that you follow rules and laws because you have to serve the public interest of all based on rules and laws, and you don't just get to serve up one other person's interest. I'm here for students and supportive staff, here for students. I usually think of that. My first job is to make sure our students are thriving. My staff might not be happy all the time, but if it's kids first, I want to support our staff, but it's our kids first. And then I'd say, then it's families, then it's community, but kids are first. Access, opportunities, removing barriers and obstacles. Those are all the things. Those are the things that are my layers. Okay, so now I just want you, on your own, think about your layers for a second. Please take 3 minutes, write down your layers. We're not going to talk about it. It's a personal assignment for you. What are your layers? All right, team. Muchas gracias. Thank you for staying with me on this. I appreciate that. I know some of this might be hard at times, but again, it's kind of the personal work, vulnerable work. And I'll just say, imagine that other people know your layers and know who you are and see you, and then that you see them. Again, those are very important things. And the more that you are able to share your lived life experience with others, just the more it creates interpersonal connection. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide, Mika. All right, so institutional level. Now you're in your jobs, or now you're in organizations. Now you're in trying to make things from within better at the places that you work, or even the places that support you. And so for me, the themes were cultural wealth, promoting educational advancement, exploring pathways to long-term success. All of these things were the themes for Conéctate. From an institutional level, you have to look at the structures in your organizations. Do they have equity lens? Do they have something where they make decisions where they know the impact on those that are in power or those that are not? Are you looking out for those that are disadvantaged? Are you creating disproportionate impact on those that have less resources or that have less access or less opportunities? We should be thinking about that on the decisions that we make. And if we know that we're making gaps wider, that's probably not a good decision. But if we know that we're raising achievement for all, especially those that need more resources or more support or more time or more practice or more opportunities, then you're probably going in the right direction. To me, it's a normal thing now. I usually think about the decision and the second order and the third order of that decision. The consequences, the ripple effect, how it impacts me, how it impacts others, how it impacts parents, how it impacts staff, how much time, how much energy, how much resources do I have to give to that. It's a normal thing. You usually know when you're creating an obstacle or a barrier for somebody, and you usually know when you're removing that obstacle and barrier. That's what equity lens help people to do. They help people to think through the consequences of their decisions and if it's sustainable or not. My hope is that you're in organizations, or you think about organizations that have these and use these tools as reflections before they make big decisions. Another thing that I think is important at the institutional level is having a plan, having goals, having a mission statement, having values, living to those values, knowing what you're trying to accomplish, and then monitoring that, collecting data on that, planning that, monitoring, supporting, changing along the way if it's not working, adjusting, and doing that on a variety of things. I usually share with folks that, like, schools for me are about learning. We were meant for learning. We want kids to learn. Reading, math, science, social studies, all kinds of things. You're here. You're learning. We're also about outcomes. Are you graduating? Are you not graduating? Are you passing the class? Are you not passing the class? Are you staying out of trouble? Are you not staying out of trouble? Did you learn that concept, that skill that we just taught? Did you pass that test? Did you get that credit? Did you graduate? Are you on track or not on track? We have a lot of outcomes that we monitor. Did we win? Did we lose in that sport? Did they get that need met that was established earlier or not? Lots of outcomes. And then we're also about collaboration. We're about relationships. We're about making sure that we partner with organizations and institutions, that we get along with the city, that we get along with business, that we make sure students are having experiences where they can do job shadows or work studies, that we have lots of different collaborative relationships, that we care about kids, that kids care about each other, that our teachers care about kids, that teachers care about teachers, that teachers care about parents, that parents care about the kids. A lot of collaboration that happens. And then you make sure that you have policies. You make sure that you have policies where people feel seen, where they feel valued, where they feel understood. where they feel connected, where they feel protected if there's wrongdoing, and that you take action when things go wrong. Like, you want organizations to have those things in place, and if they don't, you want to help them see that. That, to me, is how we create better systems or better organizations or better communities. And it takes us. It takes you. It just doesn't happen on its own. It takes you to care and you to get involved and you to advocate. That's how you make institutions better. Does that make sense? And I realize that not everybody is like a superintendent, or that not everybody is a board chair. But if I'm right here talking to you guys and I'm not anything special, usually I tell people, like, there's not like a lot of brain juice in here that's better than any of you what you got, because there's not. I just care. That's it. Not smart, not that talented, but I care, and I'm driven. Okay, go to the next one, please. All right, so structural. There's all of these things right here. These are the structural systems in society. You got education. It's a big system. It's a big, like, nationwide, region-wide, statewide thing. It's community-wide. Agricultural structures. Technology, housing, safety, sports. There's so many things that create systems and institutions based into themselves that operate. And the reality is, like, if you get involved in these structures and then you use the skills that you have from a personal, interpersonal, and institutional level, you can influence structural level. It's definitely more legislature or more government, where you have to talk and advocate for things. If you don't think that I don't advocate for education structure reforms, like, I spend a lot of time advocating for structural reform in education, whether it's too much testing, whether it's not enough SPED support, whether it's too much accountability for something, or whether it's not enough funding. You get involved in those types of systems and you can influence a variety of things at the structural level for the state or the country. But again, if you want to create wealth for others, if you want to create success for you, those are the things that help that. And sometimes people complain and they say lots of different things, but get involved. If you want to fix something, you have to get involved. That's an important part of making things better, being involved. Go to the next one. I just wanted you to see that there's other structural systems that perpetuate inequality. I think some of these things that you know already that don't create access or opportunities for others. I'm going to read that bottom section. Our best future will be created when we amplify our voices, our lived life experiences, and we contribute to the creation of rules and laws and policies. If we take a special emphasis on wealth building, we can improve the prosperity of ourselves, our families, and our communities. I'll say a little bit more. You know, to get involved in these types of things is hard. It's not that simple. It means that you do deeply care about things and making things better. And sometimes I want you guys to realize, and I've said it before, we have laws and rules that were created long ago, hundreds of years ago. And they were made at a time where brown people or black people or red people were not at the decision-making table. So we have a lot of systems, a lot of structural things that have been perpetuated by systems that were created hundreds of years ago, 150 years ago. They didn't have cars at that time, or they didn't have airplanes at that time, or they didn't have the internet at that time. They didn't have all kinds of other systems at that time. They had what they had at that time, and they made laws and rules based on that time. And the thing that I would just say is, sometimes it's like, when you have a lot of white Power Rangers, and white Power Rangers made all the rules, you need to have red Power Rangers to help to change rules, or brown Power Rangers, or black Power Rangers to help change rules or make the rules better for everyone. And if you think at that level, which is at least how I think, you can stay fairly neutral, you can stay fairly positive about things that need to get better and move systems forward. Because you really want all people to thrive, especially your family and your communities. Next slide. Okay, so I'm bringing you home. Understand yourself, your roots, your values, interpersonal level. That's step one. Work with teams. Collaborate. Design and implement equity tools, strategic plans, goals, strategies, all these types of things to make things better interpersonally. And then look at the big picture on systems. Those are very important things. Those are steps that I think are very important. Okay, reflect on what's been related to that. I just want you guys for right now, 2 minutes each, talk a little bit about what has been shared today. What has been shared about personal, interpersonal, institutional, and structural systems, and what you think you can do to make that better. Because my point in all of that is, if you do those things, that's how you create wealth for others. That's how you create better communities. That's how you create better rules or laws or policies. Okay, go ahead and share with each other. 2 minutes. How are you? What are you getting about this so far? Is there anything?
I'm just, I'm kind of, my boss gave me the flexibility to just kind of come here and determine what the story would be, and, even if there is no story, just kind of make some connections.
Yeah. No, good. I mean, again, what I'm saying, is there anything that's
yeah.
hitting you?
Yeah, it's all very interesting. I think, like, your biography and trying to relate that to the rest of the audience, and then trying to kind of zoom out and, how we relate to our community, how we relate to our institutions. I mean, that's all important, especially, I guess, for a younger audience, too, who are just starting to try to figure that out, where their place is. So, yeah.
Juan, I know you're busy.
Yes.
Is there anything
I'm
that
not
you're getting
busy.
out of this? Some of those details?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
What are you getting out of it?
Mostly just like from what you were saying from when I came back in.
All right, team. We got a couple more slides. The next 2 slides are going to be a little bit more, I don't know, coachy. Coach George, type stuff. But before you get to Coach George, is there anybody that would like to share or reflect on what you've got out of this presentation so far? Anything on personal, interpersonal, or institutional or structural? Just raise your hand and I'll walk over to you, or Juan will. Anyone excited to talk? Yeah. Let me get this over to you. I love your vest too, by the way. I love it.
Good morning. Buenos días a todos. Within all of this, thank you. Thank you, by the way, for sharing your story. I could definitely relate to a lot of the things that you were saying, a lot of the feelings that you were saying there. And overall, one of the things that really has stood out and I think has been a theme for me with the last couple of weeks within our political systems and within elections coming up, I don't need to be an expert in those areas to get involved. I care, but here I was holding myself back with getting more involved because I'm not an expert in the area. And I think what you said is you don't have to be an expert or a genius within it. As long as you care, that's good enough to get involved and do something about it. It is up to us. So thank you for sharing that.
I'm so glad you said that because being here at Conéctate, this is the kind of place where when we get to know each other and learn more about what other people are doing in their work or what their experiences are, when we're not here together in the room and we hear things in the other places where we work and live, it gives us the opportunity to say, wait a minute, I think you should learn a little more about that, or maybe there's a different way of thinking about that, or, just something. And I think it's those connections that we can take with us away from here. We don't have to be experts. We don't have to know everything about each other, but it's just that practice of creating a space for people to think about things being different.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, you guys have been amazing. I'm very thankful for you all. I would just say again, 5-year-old George, 5-year-old George, even 10-year-old George, who had the parents get divorced and the mom moved back to Mexico. My dad married 5 women. I didn't feel very taken care of. I'll just say that. I felt, like I said, abandoned. I felt like I had to have teachers and coaches and people that mentored me or showed me the way, and that made me kind of move to those values. And the reality, though, is back to, anyone can be anything if they work hard at stuff. I really believe that. I would have told you I never thought I'd be a superintendent of a school district. I never thought I'd be working with separate governors. I never thought that I would be advising the State Board of Education. Never in my mind. I never thought that I'd have what I have. I kind of knew some things that I'll share. I'll share right now. Go to the next slide. Here's what I knew. I knew in middle school there was a poster, and every day that I went to middle school and I got ready for PE, and I was next to that poster, that poster made me think about what I wanted. And that one where it says, some people make things happen, which one are you? Somewhere in middle school, I knew that I wanted to be the person that made things happen. Not smart, not talented, not a whole bunch of things. I just knew that I wanted to be the guy that made things happen, or the person that made things happen. At 12 years old, I knew I wanted to be involved. I don't care if it was sports, I don't care if it was teaching, I don't care if it was being an administrator. I just knew I wanted to be involved. Okay, so here's my Coach George stuff. So if you want to make life better for yourself and for your family and for your communities, and you want to make better for the economy or better for the organization or better for the Latinx community, you're here. So be a leader. Get connected. Conéctate. Study the issues. I'm not an expert. I might learn or read something, but I'm not an expert. Develop solutions, get involved, take action, advocate, celebrate, repeat. I'm going to use that word again, repeat. And then repeat. And then repeat. People that are determined and that are persistent are the ones that get things done. Not the most smart, not the smartest, not the most talented, but people that are persistent and determined and follow things through. Focus on creating access opportunity, reduce barriers and obstacles for people, especially those that are disadvantaged. I in particularly love to see people that are disadvantaged grow. I find more joy and satisfaction to my life. I want everyone to grow, I want everyone to thrive, but when students that need more or people that need more get more, and they all start to thrive, love it. Help and work with people to create better systems, meet the needs of all stakeholders, address and improve opportunity gaps. That's what I do for K-12 education, enrollment into preschools or colleges, more access and ownerships of homes and businesses. Like, we have to get involved. We have to help people to create those kinds of systems. Problem solving for things that create disproportionate outcomes. Use data. Implement inclusive and culturally responsive practices in your workplace. Get to know other people's culture or get to know other people's lived life experiences and make sure that you're creating inclusive environments for them. Understand implicit bias and mitigate that. I might even say for all of us, like, we have our own biases. I like trucks more than I like cars. I like wearing gray or I like wearing blue. I just do. So it's like we know what we have some biases towards. Know that, but you know when it's a wrong bias, fix it. Deal with that. Reconcile that. Fix it. I'll just say that. Have restorative justice practices. I'm big on, like, I needed second chances and third chances sometimes because I was a knucklehead. I was a little boy that, like I said, my mom moved. My dad wasn't around very much. I was not perfect. I needed people to love me or affirm me or support me or tell me it's okay and tell me get better, learn from this, and that's been very helpful. And then I've needed to apologize when I've wronged people. We need to have those types of practices as normal. When you're in the organization and you're the leader of the organization, collaborate with your city, collaborate with the health department, collaborate with the police or the safety officials, collaborate with other education agencies and businesses to improve the systems in your community. My hope is that I'm giving you some pathways to think about for the next 20 years or 30 years or 50 years of life. Okay, last slide. These are all the things that were in the themes of Conéctate. So I'm trying to hit those themes by sharing these things. So growing wealth personally, socially, culturally, and intellectually. All right. Be rich with your family, your friends, and community first. Strive to be personally satisfied. That's a journey we're all on. Choose a vocation that you love, that gives you joy and purpose. Strive to be professionally satisfied. I'm going to say this. There are times where I'm sometimes personally satisfied and not professionally satisfied. And there's times where I've been professionally satisfied but not personally satisfied. But the more that you can get somewhere in the 80% personally satisfied and professionally satisfied, you'll probably be fairly happy. Know who you are with your race, your history, your culture, and embrace your roots. Honor and celebrate and uplift your family and friends. Those are all things that I have found in my lived life, my 50 years on this planet, have helped me. So financial goals. I don't know all the things that you're going to hear today about Conéctate and financial things, but I'm going to just say my lived life type stuff too again. Strong earnings based on family and personal goals. Whatever it is that you're going to do for your future, you hopefully want strong earnings based on family and personal goals. Spend less than you earn. I think it's very hard. It's not that hard for me, I think. I'm pretty good at spending less than I earn. I have people that I have to take care of sometimes, and our interests are not aligned. I'll just say that. But I love them more than I love money. That's another thing too for me. I love my family far more than I love money. I love my wife far more than I love money. I love making them happy or satisfied or taking care of them far more than I love money. Have a vision for your standard of living. This kind of house, this kind of house, this kind of house, this kind of car, that kind of car, whatever, this kind of phone, this kind of TV, this kind of trip, this kind of thing. Have a vision for your standard of living. Good housing and transportation was important to me. I wanted to have technology that worked. I want to have fun. I love supporting others and giving to others. And I like to minimize current and future debts. So I've saved money right away before I even spend it. I make sure it goes into different pots so it grows outside of people getting into it. Build wealth through strong state pension and set aside funds for retirement annuities. These are all I'm just giving you some strategies to think about. Okay, last one. Build wealth based on your culture, traditional expectations, and family values. So I would just say this. Love your family. Support family experiences and traditions and celebrations and events. Stay together with them, even when they get older. I think it's harder for me. I have a 22-year-old boy. Then I got a 28-year-old daughter, and I got a 25-year-old daughter, and then I have a 14-year-old daughter. And trying to get them all to stay together and for us to have experiences and for us to go on trips and for us to make memories is harder and harder. But if you can get that to happen every 2 months, every 3 months as a family, those are very important. And then as you age, make new friendships. I think what I'm learning for my children is they're making their own friendships and they're getting in their own relationships and they're going in their own life and they're not choosing me as their number one anymore. They're choosing. It's probably easy not to choose me as the number one. But they're choosing other things, and that makes me have to grow in other ways too. It makes me have to make new friendships too and do other things that make me satisfied. Support one another. This is another thing for all of us, right? We got to support others, especially when they're getting in the workforce and you're becoming entrepreneurs or business owners, or you're buying real estate or you're developing other things. You got to support each other and help each other. That's how you make the community better. That's how you make our race better, our culture better. Celebrate, educate, remember, build memories, forgive, and love people, and then move forward. I'll say that one part about moving forward. We don't live 200 years ago. We don't live 400 years ago. We don't live 150 years ago. We don't live 50 years ago. We don't live 20 years ago. We don't live 10 years ago. We live now. And if you get stuck on things that were 50 years ago, that just creates resentment. That doesn't create joy. You got to live in now and how to move things forward now. I can't fix problems that were 50 years ago. I can fix problems now and move forward. My brain goes there on a lot of things. Okay, that's the end. Any questions, any comments, anything? Yeah.
Can you say what you think of as intellectual wealth?
Well, again, education. Just us learning, us knowing, us studying, and us taking action sometimes based on that. I do think that people that need more time, more practice, and more opportunities should be given that within settings so that they can grow and advance at higher rates. Sometimes I'll tell people, like, the most equitable thing a school system can do is to have small group learning or have individualized learning and do it in a cohesive, systematic way so that students can all grow, not create larger disparities over time. But I think our society thrives when we're educated. And I use things like, we're going this way, or we're going this way. This is the very thing. If you spend time with me, it's like, where are we going? This way or this way? Or this way? We can go this way for a little while. But we want to go this way, upwards and onwards. And when society is educated, things advance. When society is not educated, things decline. Any other? ¿Algo más? Okay, that ends my presentation. Thank you all.
We just want to say thank you, George, first of all, for the very thoughtful, insightful, everything thoughts. We're very lucky to have you in our community as a whole. And hey, you're my number one. Remember that. And now, connecting back to the Conéctate, this year the conference will focus on amplifying the voices, lived experiences, and contributions of Latinx and Hispanic communities in rural areas of Eastern Oregon, with a special emphasis on wealth building. The 2024 theme, Empowering Wealth Building in Our Community, is designed to empower attendees with the knowledge and tools to take control of their financial future, while also recognizing the value of cultural and social capital as essential components of true wealth creation. By recognizing and leveraging the richness of cultural heritage and social networks, this annual gathering aims to help attendees build a more holistic and sustainable foundation for lasting success, as well as leveraging the richness of cultural heritage and social networks. From its inception in 2017, the intent of Conéctate has been to come together for a one-day gathering of Latino-serving organizations, partners, and community members in Eastern Oregon of Conéctate. Conéctate offers opportunities to build more meaningful relationships with on-the-ground leaders, volunteers, students, and allies in Eastern Oregon's Latinx community. It continues to be a space to discuss challenges and triumphs and allows community members a chance to connect. Its community partners and agencies, as well as regional and statewide foundations, all strongly feel that the need to connect, whether that is in person or virtually, is as strong as ever. And now to Jose.
Hello, everybody, again. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, George Mendoza, and thank you, Dr. Kelly Ryan, for reminding us what Conéctate is all about and why we're in this space, sharing the same breath, and being in these moments together. I do want to go back a little bit into my script and kind of go over some housekeeping rules that we have. The schedule might have changed a little bit, so please bear with us. We'll be right back on track, so don't you worry. One of the first things I do want to go over is on your name tags. If you got one of those at the registration desk, they should have a little QR code on there. It should have all the information about today's schedule and everything. If not, there is a big giant QR code on the screen, so feel free to use that if you have a device to see today's schedule, where everything's going to be at. Just wanted to let you all know about that. And if you need a paper program, they are at the registration desk, so if you don't have a device, no worries, we got you covered. So yeah, that's where you find all the information, workshops, our presenters, and anybody you want to connect with later on. I do also want to note that our restrooms are located right outside these doors and right at the entrance where you all came from. You'll see the men's and women's out there by the coffee and food and everything. Please make sure to have your devices either turned off or on mute, just so we don't distract our presenters or yourselves or people around you. Morning refreshments will be out there still, so please, please, please take whatever you want. If you feel guilty about taking an extra bagel, don't. I've had to, so it's okay. So please have more. And then you may have noticed we did invite a photographer around, so they were taking pictures. They may come back and take more pictures, but if you don't feel comfortable with having your picture taken at the registration desk, there is red dots that you can put on your name tag, so it indicates to us that no pictures, please, and we'll do our best to avoid that. And then again, as George mentioned earlier at the beginning of his speech, this is being recorded, so whatever you do share will be recorded. So be mindful of that, and I want to be respectful to everybody's that some people may share more sensitive information, so please honor their privacy and everything. But it is being recorded as well, so that could cause a barrier there if you want to share or not. Just wanted to put that out there as well. Yeah, and then so I do want to go over a little bit over our schedule as well. Just a quick glance at it. We heard from President Ryan, we heard from George Mendoza, so thank them all again if you see them around. And then in keeping with tradition of Conéctate, we'll also continue to highlight the powerful effects of storytelling, which you'll hear from our storytellers a little bit later today. The effects of that and how we can all find connections through the shared experiences, whatever they're going through, whatever we've gone through, we can always find a connection there, hence the word Conéctate. A panel of storytellers, including EOU faculty, students, and staff who are doing on-the-ground work within our communities, will share their personal stories in an effort to provide a better understanding of the people that make up our communities and the diverse backgrounds and experiences that they share. And now I'll pass it back over to Juan so he can continue on with our schedule.
Thank you very much. We'll have a short break before we invite our storytellers onto stage. There will also be another short break before the workshop sessions. And we are excited to offer 4 workshop sessions this year. These sessions are designed not just to inform, but to inspire. They offer valuable insights, practical tips, and a welcoming space where you can connect with peers and share your unique experiences. Together, we can learn, grow, and build a stronger, more supportive community. These workshop sessions will happen in Zabel Hall, a short distance across campus. After the workshop sessions, we invite you all back to the Mackenzie Theater lobby to join us for lunch and more conversation. Lunch will be set up in the Mackenzie Theater lobby area right over here where we signed up, and the conference is scheduled to close shortly after lunch, but please feel free to stick around afterwards, and we encourage you to find ways to connect and network with each other. Please also visit our partner organizations at their informational table if you have not already, and they are also set up out here in Mackenzie Theater lobby. This is an excellent opportunity to engage with organizations and people who are doing on-the-ground work within our communities to learn more about their programs, resources, and services they offer. All of our partner organizations and institutions in our area all play an important role in helping discover new ways to build community, foster connections, and nurture personal growth. And back to Jose.
Hello again. Finally, but surely not lastly, I do want to share that you may have seen an ofrenda out here right outside our 2 doors. We do want to, that's part of this year's Conéctate conference as well. We are honored to invite you to join the Latino Student Impact Group on campus as they celebrate Dia de los Muertos, which is also today. So please, if you want to learn more, read about it, or add to the ofrenda, we invite you to. It is right out here in the lobby. And yeah, please join us to connect and honor and remember the loved ones and through this vibrant, culturally significant tradition. And so with that, I do want to move forward and thank our sponsors. So we want to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude to our fiscal sponsors and our regional partners whose ongoing support has been essential in bringing this conference to life each year. Thanks to their generosity and commitment, we've been able to create a safe and meaningful connection space, learning, and community building today. We're incredibly thankful for their partnership in making this vision a reality for all of us here and to share this space. Conéctate is made possible by the support of the Oregon Community Foundation Latino Partnership Program, the Ford Family Foundation, and Energy Trust of Oregon. It's also a collaborative effort between Eastern Oregon University, Blue Mountain Community College, Treasure Valley Community College, and Valkyrie. And with immense gratitude to our workshop partners, Northeast Oregon Network, otherwise known as NEON, Oregon Rural Action, or ORA, Northeast Oregon Economic Development District, or NEOEDD, or NEODD. One more time. NEOEDD. There we go. And Latino Impact. So I'll pass it one more time back to Juan so he can give us a little bit of insight on Dia de los Muertos and Latino Impact.
Dia de los Muertos, also known as Day of the Dead. It is a tradition-filled day during which families remember their departed and shared memories of loved ones. Key elements of Dia de los Muertos include altars or ofrendas like the one presented out there, adorned with photos, marigold flowers, candles, favorite foods, and mementos of the deceased. Each item has significance. Marigolds are believed to guide spirits back, which candles illuminate the path. It's a time not only to remember, but to celebrate lives with food, music, and stories, embracing death as a part of life and finding comfort in honoring the legacy of ancestors. This beautiful holiday fosters a deep sense of connection, love, and continuity across generations. We're also excited to announce that EOU's Latino Impact Student Club will be leading a cultural workshop where participants can learn how to make Ojo de Dios, God's eye. This traditional craft, often made with yarn and sticks, hold deep cultural significance in many indigenous communities across Mexico and Latin America. The Ojo de Dios represents the idea of seeing and understanding things not only with our eyes, but also through the wisdom of the Spirit. Traditionally, it has been as a symbol of protection and blessing, often made by family members as an offering for a child's health, safety, and well-being. Please join us and others in this workshop to connect with the rich cultural meanings behind the Ojo de Dios and try your hand at creating this beautiful piece of art. And next slide, please.
It's me again. Do want to do a quick land acknowledgement for the land that we are on. We want to acknowledge that there are institutional, systemic, and structural barriers that perpetuate inequality that have silenced the voices of communities over time, particularly those from historically underserved communities. We are committed to partnerships, co-creation, and co-ownership of solutions with communities whose voices and identities are underrepresented in the educational system. We are striving to engage with BIPOC, otherwise known as Black, Indigenous, people of color, and other underrepresented communities through deliberate, structured, emerging, and best practice processes, especially with students and communities that experience institutional, systemic, and structural barriers. We are hosted today by Eastern Oregon University, which rests on the indigenous lands of the Nez Perce Nimipu, the Cayuse, the Umatilla, and the Walla Walla, who made their homes throughout the Northeast Oregon region. We celebrate their traditions and languages and stories. We acknowledge their continuing connections to this land, water, and community, and pay our respects to these regional stewards of Northeast Oregon region. Acknowledging the land is a transformative act that recognizes the erasure of indigenous peoples to commemorate their connection ties to this land, to encourage people to think about what it means to occupy space on indigenous lands, and to show gratitude and pay our respects to indigenous communities in the places that we gather. It is equally important to understand the long-lasting history that has brought you to live and work on the land, and to seek to understand our places within that history. Now, land acknowledgements do not exist in past tense or historical context. Colonialism is an ongoing process, and we need to build our mindfulness of our present participation. We invite you to take a moment to recognize and honor the traditional indigenous peoples of this land upon which you and I and all of us reside. And also outside, I want to mention there is some information out there as well, so please take a look at that as you're enjoying lunch or connecting with one another. So we also invite you to take a look at those, please. And with that, I will sorry, my script got a little messed up here. Pass it back over to Juan to kind of go over the break and what to expect next.
This time we'd like to take a brief 15-minute break. It is now 10:16, and I'll see you guys back here at 10:30, and please feel free to get more coffee, stand up and stretch, and after we return, we'll have our storytellers join us. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Up next, in keeping with the tradition of Conéctate, we will continue highlighting the powerful effect of storytelling and how connecting through shared experiences is a big part of life as a whole. At this time, I would like to invite our panel of storytellers. Thank you guys for beating me to that. And they're going to share their personal stories in an effort to provide a better understanding of the people that make up our communities and the diverse backgrounds and experiences that they share. These empowering active voices from our community members is an important and powerful tool. We have invited these storytellers to share their life stories to provide a better understanding of who make up our communities, the diversity, the histories, background, and experience that they have to bring as well. We are honored to be with these panelists today who will be taking us on a journey through storytelling and will give us a glimpse of their triumphs and challenges. Please take notes of any questions you might have today for these storytellers, for at the end of this event there will be time for connecting, as we very much encourage it. Our storytellers first are Dr. Sandra Nava Nieto, Assistant Professor of Spanish at EOU, Cassandra Sanchez, EOU staff from the Office of Admissions, Rosa Ramirez, EOU staff from the Office of Disability Service, and Claudia Juarez, EOU student. And of course, DEIB staff Mika Morton will moderate the conversation. Please join me in welcoming our storytellers.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. My name is Mika Morton. I work at the Center for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging here at EOU, and I'm really honored to share this space with our storytellers that are joining us today for Conéctate. I have a short list of questions, and I thought we could just have a conversation, not necessarily an interview. I don't want it to be anything formal, but more asking folks and our panelists to kind of share their lived experiences in different kinds of ways. And so I'm just going to ask everybody before they answer their questions to introduce themselves really briefly, and then we'll just kind of get started, if that's okay. Are you all ready for a conversation? Okay.
Hi, I'm Rosa Ramirez. I've never done anything like this before. It's actually my first conference ever. So if I sound really stumbly, that's probably why. Yeah. Oh, I'm the accommodation specialist at Eastern.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cassandra Sanchez. I was born and raised in Ontario, Oregon. I graduated from Ontario High School, Treasure Valley Community College, came to Eastern Oregon, and fortunately now I work for Eastern Oregon University. I'm an admissions counselor here, and I also live in La Grande.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sandra Nava Nieto. I come from Spain. I was born and raised there. I came to the United States in 2016 to Kentucky, the University of Kentucky in Lexington, and I got my PhD and my master there, and then I got hired here, and I have been here for 3 years teaching Spanish to the students of EOU.
Hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Juarez. I was also born and raised in Ontario, Oregon. I graduated from Ontario High School. I'm currently a senior here at EOU. I am studying art, and I work at the Multicultural Center. I'm also the SCMA coordinator and an RA as well.
A lot of titles.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a question, and then whoever feels comfortable or want to share, please hop right in. So the question is, in what ways has your cultural identity influenced your understanding of success and prosperity?
I'll go first, I guess. We're just looking at each other. So I totally realized I forgot to say where I was from. I'm also from Ontario. So there's 3 of us from Ontario. Okay. Mika said, what of my culture experience, thank you. What of my cultural identity influenced my understanding of success? So I am a first-generation college student. To pay for some of my college education, I would go home in the summers and I would join my family and my parents in the fields to make money so I would have money. So a lot of my success comes from not wanting to go back to the fields. So I thought having a job with AC was the coolest thing on this face of this earth. So I did that for a couple years. I worked 3 jobs. I was a student athlete, and I was a full-time college student, and it took me 5 years to get my degree. And a lot of people think that, and they're like, that's crazy. And I'm like, that's not normal. Yeah, that's what I got.
For me, I was born and raised in Ontario, Oregon, right? And I feel like my parents have always instilled in me like a deep work ethic and just caring for other individuals, right? And so I feel like the work ethic that my parents instilled into me, watching them and how they've worked, helped me to become, successful. You know, I feel like I'm still growing and I'm still pursuing what I want to do in my future, in my career and whatnot, but definitely inspired by my parents.
Sure. So for me, I feel that success and prosperity, I think, I think the most important thing, again, like the work ethic that Cassandra mentioned, and successful means that, you know, you can take care of yourself, you have a house, you have a good job, you have a security in that job, right? You're not gonna get fired easily, that you're happy, right? I would say that the other part of that success and prosperity, more like maybe in personal life experiences, such as, you know, you have to have a family, right? Have kids to be successful and have this life that our parents envision for us. And for example, I have challenged that vision for my parents. My parents, obviously, they miss me very much. They wish I was in Spain, especially my mom. But on the other hand, she understands that here I have a good career. I have a lot of benefits here that I would not have in Spain. But I try to compensate that. So I'm trying to give them a little bit of what they want, but also like keeping my own idea of what, you know, prosperity means to me.
So for me, it's kind of the same as Cassandra and Sandra. My mom especially put a very hard work ethic on me. I appreciated her a lot for that. She always told me education was the way to success because it can open many doors. So she pushed me really hard in education, which I am very grateful for. And like my idea of success and prosperity is like being comfortable and happy in the space I'm in. But like the comfortability is the most important part, like knowing I can pay my bills, like I have a house to go to, like not having to live, sorry, I blinked. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was gonna say, but yes, just.
What she was gonna say is that, for example, you know, if we don't have money, we're not gonna go into debt. Like, I feel that debt, at least from my perspective, it's like a big no-no. So that's also, I think that's what you tried to.
Yeah, kind of like just not having to live paycheck by paycheck and just, yeah, like having that comfortability of knowing like, yeah, I can do this stuff and still be able to pay my bills and like provide better future for myself as long with my parents as well. And that's everything I have.
Magically, I got a mic. Thanks, Juan. What financial lessons or practices have been passed down through your family or community, and how have they shaped your approach to building wealth?
So like everyone said, debt is a no-no. I was always told that if I ended up in debt, I was gonna die, and then it was gonna go to my children, and it was gonna be the worst thing ever. So for me personally, I thought debt was a very scary thing, and then I got to college and I realized I could not afford college unless I took out a student loan. And that was the hardest thing I had to do, because my parents always told me if I ended up with debt, it was gonna follow me forever. So that was something I think I struggled with up until my freshman year spring term. That's when I finally was like, okay, I want to continue going to college. It's something I have to do. And I talked to my mom about it for like 3 weeks, and then I finally said, okay, this isn't going anywhere, and I want to continue my education. So that's what I did with that. I don't know what else to say.
So for me, I feel like my parents, they came from Mexico. I forgot to mention that I'm also a first generation college student, right? I do have older siblings, but they did not go the traditional route for college. So it was up to me. I feel like I took that upon myself to figure it out, right? I took it upon myself to, just figure out my own path and to find different sources of not income, but almost like ways to pay for college, right? So instead of coming straight to EOU, I went to Treasure Valley Community right off the bat. There, I asked my dad for a $600 loan. And when I was in college, that was, for me, one of the biggest burdens that I could ask my parents, or that I had to ask my parents for money, right? And so he gave me the funds and whatnot, and I started my community college career. And from there, I really set it upon myself to start applying for scholarships. I went into the College Assistant Migrant Program, the camp program at TVCC, and from there, they really helped me to start, for those of you in the crowd that are students, they really helped me to start forming, what I needed to do financially to get through college. And so eventually I ended up getting paid to go to school at TVCC, same thing at EOU. And through all of that, I remember my dad specifically. I feel like this is such a important thing to him. He would always keep money in his wallet, because when he was in Mexico, he'd have a wallet, but there would be nothing in it. And so for him, it's kind of like almost like that superstition, right? Where he always has to have a little bit of cash on him to make sure what you have in your wallet is going to continue to grow and duplicate and whatnot. And so he always has money in his wallet. And that's always what I think about, right? Like, they came here with nothing. He has something now, right? So.
For me, like while you were talking, I was thinking also how to relate to those stories, because in a certain way, that's right, like there was a no-no. I remember when my parents bought their RV, they went to get a loan to the bank, and I was thinking, I didn't say anything, but I was thinking to myself, why would you get another loan when you're like 55? Please don't. So, but I think I'm going with what they have said. I think the most important thing for me and my family, financially speaking, would be to know how the system works and to know where to get that money from. So for example, all my university, even though I studied my undergrad in Spain, that's true, my undergrad was fully covered by grants. I took 2 years abroad with other programs at my university, and the government of Spain offered, I had a grant for those. I actually saved money. Those 2 years. When I went to the University of Kentucky, I got a master and a PhD, and I paid $0 for that because I was like a TA. So I was living, that's the thing. I think one of the most important lessons would be to not have instant gratification, right? I think from my perspective at least, and having been living here in the States for 5 years or so, I don't know, a little bit more than 5 years, 6, 7, 8 years, is that I feel that people here, they want that instant gratification, and the goal is the delay gratification, right? Okay, yes, when I was at the University of Kentucky, I wasn't paying anything for my schooling, right? But I was only getting paid for being a TA, the first year, I think I got paid $12K a year. I was living with dad. So, you know, I didn't have a car, for example, so I know I missed some experiences, but now I have a better future. So I think that's also something that has to deal with financial and like cultural traditions in a way, or way of thinking, of thinking, sorry. So yes, just plan, you know, if you're in high school or you know someone that is in high school, they have to start now to think about what is going to happen in 5 years, what will happen in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years. I know it's very hard to imagine or to have a goal for 20 years when you're like 15, right? But at least the 5-year goal could be like really important to set, you know?
So at least for me, I didn't really know about like financial responsibilities or like lessons until like later on in life, because my mom always told me like, oh, don't worry about it, like we have you, like your family has you. It wasn't until like I was coming here to EOU, she was like, well, we have to do your FAFSA, you have to apply for scholarships and grants, and I was like, oh my God, like I actually do. And that's when I first like really came into like the money plays, like seeing how large my bill was from EOU, having to take out loans and grants, having to get 1 or 2 on-campus jobs just to pay for tuition and to continue to go here. Especially while in college, I've learned a lot about like my financial lessons and practices. Not to call out my family, not the greatest with money, but they're good with money. But they have taught me like how a credit card works. My mom got me the credit card for the first time. She's like, build your credit. So she's like instilling those like more bigger financial responsibilities on me earlier on, just so I can have it later on when I do graduate and like intend to like buy a house or buy a car and everything, and just like putting money aside, since like this year, thankfully, my tuition is fully paid for by scholarships and grants, just putting that money aside in like a savings account for my future plans and actions.
I just wanted to add on this topic that my mom always tells me and my sister that we're always scheming about how to get opportunities, like how to find grants and apply for those grants and get opportunities to do, you know, different stuff for free or near free. And yeah, we're always seeing what we can do. So information, I think access to information and access to know how to do things is the most crucial part on getting ahead, right? You need to know where the money is and how to get it. And my mom always told me, you know, you already have the know. So, you know, you should, if you have the requirements, if you met the requirements, just apply for the grant. If they say no, oh well, they say no. You know, tough luck. But if you don't, you know, apply for the grant, you will never know. And that may change your life, right?
Thank you. So now I'd like to shift away a little bit from thinking about financial wealth and success, and kind of shift into cultural and arts and music and food and all the things that really make our human experience rich. So given that, and keeping that in mind, what traditions or practices from your community have been vital in your professional or personal success?
I grew up, I actually didn't know a lot about Mexican culture or any of that, because like George said, my parents tried to make us as American as possible. And so now that I'm 24 years old, I just made my first altar on my own. And I was really proud, and I called my dad, and he's like, where'd you get that picture of your grandma? And I'm like, don't worry about it. But I got one. So I'm just trying to relearn my own culture so I can, I have a son, he's 9 months old. And I'm trying to learn my own culture so I can teach him about our culture, because my parents are really old. My dad's 75. He's in good health, but things can happen, and so I'm trying really hard to learn about their past and their stories so I can pass those on to my son. Because I'm the youngest of 12, so it's going to be really hard for my kids to see their grandparents when they're older. So I'm trying really hard to relearn my culture, and so it's really nice to have people to talk to.
I'm taking this in a little bit of a different direction and kind of like what has been vital in like keeping me rooted, right? I feel like for me, it's really easy to get lost in, you know, just a sea of different things and different thoughts that you might not align with, right? And so for me personally, just making sure that I'm calling my mom every day and making sure that, you know, listening to her stories and listening to her and simply just speaking in Spanish. There was a little time there where I was not calling her. I wasn't like making sure that there was a connection going there. And I realized that, you know, I felt almost like my tongue wasn't cooperating with me whenever I was speaking in Spanish with her. And so that's one of the biggest things for me, to make sure to stay rooted, you know, visiting family, making sure that I'm sharing stories with my parents. And same thing that Rosa said, you know, like making sure that I'm fully understanding where my parents are coming from. Because for me, there was a lot of just not understanding where my parents were coming from, right? They're first generation, you know, they migrated here from Mexico. And so for me, there was almost like a little bit of a disconnect, right? They were raised in a different culture than the one I'm being raised in, and so there were certain rules or things or standards that they were setting for me that I just simply didn't understand. And so now that I'm older, now that my frontal lobe or whatever that's called has fused and developed, I'm connecting with them and rebuilding the relationship that I feel like I personally didn't work on when I was younger, right? And so, yeah, a lot of, you know, just keeping in touch and learning stories has been keeping me rooted.
For me, I feel that probably for being successful, well, for me, I'm a little bit different than these three because I am first generation immigrant here. So for me, again, I'm gonna take something from Cassandra. Yes, I keep myself rooted by still holding to traditions or cultural things that I used to do in Spain and I still do here. For example, like I don't eat at 12, I eat at 2 or 3 p.m., which sometimes cause troubles because I don't want a meeting at 3. But anyway, but if I have to be in a meeting at 3, I will be in a meeting at 3. It's just that day I won't be happy. But anyway, then I have dinner like at 9 or 10 p.m. For example, in Spain, it's very typical to just have like a coffee, like you literally get out of bed, grab a coffee and go to work, right? That's one thing that is different for me. In Spain, it's more usual to have a sweet breakfast, and I don't like sweet breakfast. I love savory breakfast. So I try to have always something savory if I'm hungry, but I always end up like eating breakfast at like 11 a.m. So what are other things? Yeah, so things like that. Then, for example, maybe like traveling. I started traveling when I was like a baby. I was 8 months when my parents took me to north of Italy. And I have been traveling ever since, and I think that really helped me like navigate other cultures, navigate an airport, for example, how to get, you know, plane tickets and how to do the check-in and all the regulations that there are. So yeah, I still hold to a lot of these cultural, I don't know how to call it, like, I don't want to say things, that's very broad, like artifacts or customs that I usually did in Spain. And yeah, I call my mom, we text every day, we video call once a week. So I'm very close with them, with my family, so.
So for me, it's gonna be a little different. For me, I think like some of the practices like my family taught me. My family's very heavily involved in the community, especially my mother. She did a lot in Ontario, and she would always make me volunteer as well. And then just like bringing those practices, trying to bring those practices here, and like getting people knowledge about like some Hispanic holidays or like what they mean and what they're about, because they've seen them, but they don't really know like the deeply rooted meaning to them. So that's what I've been hoping to like bring more into my professional career. My personal career, however, I was never expected to speak to my family in Spanish. Like they never just really pushed that on us until we got older, and it was going to be harder for us to learn, especially like with my sister. She is a teacher, and my other sister works at an eye doctor. So we were like trying to like learn more Spanish because our careers like really need it. And so yeah, that's like one thing I want to personally grow on. It was like we spoke Spanish in the house, but it wasn't, like I said, expected of us. So I want to bring that practice more into my personal life, and I've told my family that as well. So they're kind of just trying to help me along the way with that as well.
I'm hearing a lot of generational connections in your stories that you're sharing, and it's also reminding me to call my mom, because I haven't spoken to my mom in a little while. But it's really heartwarming to hear the different experiences from all of you as you think back to kind of how you've kind of taken bits and pieces from different things that have been shared through the generations, and then passing it on to the next generation or to your peers or your friends in your community as well. So I just feel that just navigating challenges and barriers maybe makes it, having that support, the backing of generations of folks that came behind you, but also that are up ahead of you, to kind of lean into those and then find strength to kind of move forward. So which is a segue into overcoming challenges. My question is, how has your experience of living in a rural area shaped your opportunities and challenges compared to those living in urban settings?
Okay, so for me, if I had to compare where I was raised, so you get an idea more or less, I would say like I was raised like in Boise, right? And everything around it was more rural, right? Small towns, mountains, agricultural companies, like cows and stuff like that. You get the idea. And so for me, I didn't have, I wouldn't, how would I say it? I wouldn't say that even though I was raised in a city, right? I was surrounded by rural areas. So I get a little bit of like taste of those, of how a rural living is. For example, like my dad would take me he was the mailman in the mountains surrounding my city. And so he would, as a punishment, when I misbehave, he would, he would take me very early in the morning to his job to, deliver the letters. And it was really interesting to see how everyone knew him. Like, he had really, really strong connections in all the little towns. Like, I'm talking about towns that are so small that he had to leave the car in the main road, and he would have to like go up on foot. That guy, like they were like the paths were made of stone, that kind of stuff. Like really, really small, really rural. And yeah, it was very interesting. When I came here, I think I'm deviating a little bit of the question, but when I came here, it was very funny because we have so many, here there are some issues in the region, right, that are the same or very similar issues to the issues that I have in my region in Spain. So, for example, wolves, right? Big issue here, big issue where I'm from, like management of resources, different like ski resorts, right, and how they operate and all the stuff like that. So having the airport 3 hours away, I also have my airport 3 hours away from my city. So yeah, I think for me it was a little bit challenging in the sense that it's very typical in Spain that you live in the city, but during the weekends you go to your town where your family originated, right? To visit your grandpas or your extended family or whatever. I didn't have that. So my parents, my grandparents, they sold the land that they had way before I was born, or I think my parents even were born. So that's, So I miss on those social normal things that other peers of my age had. So yeah, that was, I believe, like a little bit of a challenge for me, right? Not to have that social interaction that these other people were having.
So my big social issue, since I was the youngest at 12, I didn't get my driver's license until I was at Eastern at 22. And so I only technically had my license for like 2 years, and now I have a baby in my car. So I drive like a slow grandma. And so I know anytime we go to like Tri-Cities to visit my sisters up there, or we go back home, I'm not the one driving, because one, semis are really scary. Two, I'm probably the person that's like trying to pass a semi but doesn't want to go above 70. So being in a rural town, I didn't really have an issue not having a car because I could just walk to my house, to school, to the store. So I didn't really have that issue, but now I'm like, I really need to learn how to drive in the city. So that's really scary for me. So that's my experience that I have, I guess.
That happens to me also when I go to Boise. I'm like, oh my God, here we go, 5 lanes. Scary. But then when I'm here, I'm like, oh my God, like a traffic jam, maybe it's like, hold on, like 5 minutes. So that's nice, right?
Okay.
Sure.
I feel like in comparison, like rural versus urban, a lot of it falls down on resources, right? And so for me, I took advantage of the opportunities that were given to me, right? And making those connections, building your network, and making sure that you're continuing to foster that network is really important too, right? Like maybe if you haven't worked with somebody that was a good connection for you in the past year or so, and you've been having them on your mind, like make sure to reach back out, let them know you've been thinking of them, hoping everything is well, and just, continue to foster those relationships because in rural areas, you don't realize how small the world is, right? Like you could be, I don't know, in La Grande, and I also recruit up in like Central Washington, and there's EOU alums up there, and so it's just funny to see how small the network really truly is and how you just have to keep fostering your own.
You want to go? Yes, no, yes.
I'm going to say no. I have no comment on that. But I want to say they did an excellent job explaining their situations.
Well, I want to take Claudia's time then to add that I think, for example, these opportunities, having these conferences is super important in rural areas. Technology really, really helps us in rural areas to connect with other people. Like that's the thing, like the connection, like when I came here, being such a little town, right? I was like, okay, like maybe there is not a lot of big stores, but that's because the people that live in these areas, they make their own businesses. Like they see a need and they make it a business to solve the need, right? Or make a solution to solve that need. And that's, I think, one of the biggest differences between the urban setting and the rural setting. Like rural capitalizing more like the human interaction, the people, you get to know the people. I feel like people in the rural areas are more involved in politics, in what is going on in the town. They protest, and people that live in urban areas, they can escape that if they want to. They don't have to really be involved because, oh, well, there are so many other people, right, around me. Someone will take the lead, or. So that's what I wanted to add. And also, what Cassandra said, I'm going back again to the information. Exactly, like you only got the opportunities that you were given, but if you think, right, if you think outside the box, like literally go to TikTok and look for real, like go to TikTok, to Facebook, to Instagram, wherever, right, online, Google, right? And Google, I don't know, like grants for study abroad or study abroad opportunities or anything that you want, and try to find those, to build those opportunities yourself, try to find that information. I know it's very burdensome. I know it's very burdensome in the sense of making a lot of like paperwork. That's the worst part, but it's so rewarding when finally you get it. Like, for example, in my experience, I always, I said that I was applying for grants, and I did apply for grants, but I was never in the first list of making it. I was always in the waiting list. But I always got them. So, you know, even if you're in the waiting list, at least you're in the waiting list, right? So yes, make your own opportunities and find them also.
It sounds like just because you're living in an urban area surrounded by, you know, thousands and thousands of other people, if you don't have relationships with them, just because you have all the resources doesn't mean it's going to make your life rich. So I'm also hearing that living in rural communities, those relationships are so central and so core to being successful and just kind of being a part of a larger community. And so I'm also thinking about, you know, quality over quantity. And again, it goes back down to those relationships. So I just really appreciate you sharing the different ways that you kind of build relationships in different parts, not just in your local community, but outside of your local community as well. So the next question is, have there been moments where you felt conflicted between staying true to your roots and adapting to new environments or circumstances, and how did you navigate that tension?
I can go. I'm sorry, I feel that I'm talking a lot. So for example, for me, a really, really big shock was when I arrived to the University of Kentucky, right? It was my first time actually being outside of Europe, right? And the first time that I visited, that I came to the US, right? And like I was very, I had a hard time understanding how the university works here. It's so different from Spain. So it's so different, and it was, yeah, I went to class, and like, for example, students were asking me for a study guide, and I was like, what the hell is that? Sorry, what the heck is that? My bad. So I was like, why? Like, there is no study guide in Spain. Like, you go, you know you're gonna have, the exam is gonna be about what is in the class. Right? Okay, I don't have a study guide, but so I compromised. I said, okay, I won't do a study guide, but what I would do, I would have one day that we're gonna review the exam in class, right? So that was a compromise for me. What other things? Yes, little things like that, or for example, like remedial classes. They're at the university level. That was so weird to me. We don't have remedial classes in Spain. So when you finish your high school, right, you go to take an exam, and then after you take an exam, you get a grade. So for example, it's a grade from 1 to 10, right? Then universities decide, okay, the degree in music has this grade to enter, the degree in lawyer has this other grade to enter, and so on and so forth, right? So if you don't have that grade from that exam, then you cannot do that major, right? Yes, so here was so different to see those remedial classes, like getting people accepted without having maybe the necessary level to get into that major. Like, it was like a whole deal. But that's the thing, you have to understand those cultural differences within the context, right? So now that I have been living here for a while, I understand that within this context, that makes sense, right? And within the Spanish context makes sense, right? what other things? But I know I said something negative. I'm going to say something positive. The process of being a professor here in the States, it's it's so much, I feel so much fair that in Spain. So, here for being a professor, you just have to apply for jobs, submit your CV, your cover letter, all this paperwork, right? And then you have an interview, and then they have a campus visit, and they decide, right, on which candidate they want. Who wants to, who are they offering the job to? In Spain, it's not like that. In Spain, you have to, they have to open the position, you apply to the position, there's like a list, they give you points. For example, if you can drive, they give you 1 point. If you can, I don't know, you have this course about this, you get 2 points, and so on and so forth, right? So then you have a meeting with the committee. There's usually like 3 or 4 or 5 people that they're from different universities, right? Here in the States, it's from the same university, for example, right? So that's another big difference. And then after that, you have to pay. Yes, I'm saying pay. The last time that I checked, it was like 30 euros you have to pay to present yourself for that position. And it's an open, anyone can come in, like all of you could go to this person interview right in front of the committee, and you have to say what your project is for that position. You have to say, what your project is for your research, right? And then the committee asks you questions. It lasts like an hour or 2 hours, that exam that you have to pay 30 euros to. And then they say, okay, they make a list, they add all the points, and whoever gets the most points gets the position, which is like crazy to me. I think this system that is in the US for higher education, for hiring professors is much more direct and makes much more sense than just, oh, you have so many points, you got it. So, yeah, and you have to pay. That's the worst part. Yes. I think. Do you have anything? Do you want to say something?
So at least for me, my freshman year here, I was fresh out of COVID, so I was just trying my hardest to fit in anywhere, anytime I can. So yeah, I kind of strayed away from who I really was, like my personality-wise, and like coming here. I don't want to say culture shock, but it is, since Ontario and here are 2 very small towns, both very different, which I was not expecting. I was super scared to come here at first, just because, like I said, everything was so different. So I just assimilated, even though I didn't want to. I just felt like I needed to, in order to have, like, I guess, a fun year. I did not end that year on a great note, but I did go home over the summer. I would go home every week too. And like over the summer, I just kind of had to like reevaluate and think about how I can feel like myself while going back for my freshman year. So, excuse me, with that, I just had to like remind myself, it requires openness. Like I have to be open to new changes, even if I'm not comfortable. That's someone else's comfortability. And being flexible as well, being flexible with the changes around me and like adapting to them only if I wanted to. And finding ways to blend my culture into my new environment as well. I found that very helpful and comforting in my process here at UU.
I feel like the biggest moments where I felt conflicted between staying true to myself or my roots and, vice versa, was when I was growing up. I feel like during those formative years, you don't know who you want to be. You just want to fit in. You just want to be able to make friends. And so I feel like, again, while I was growing up, that's when I sacrificed most of myself, right? And that's when there was really true conflict between my parents and I, like the traditions that they've brought over and the traditions / experiences that I'm growing up with. It was really hard to, kind of figure yourself out during that time. And I feel like that's when I found the most amount of conflict
I'd be invited to go certain places, and my friends are like, it's no biggie. We're just going to a football game. That's all. And I'm like, you guys, you don't understand. I already had fun once this week. I can't do that. So my parents, just growing up in like kind of that dynamic, being pulled in one direction, wanting to fit in, and still wanting to listen to my parents. But now in my adulthood, I find myself just a lot more comfortable in myself and who I am, and the spaces that I'm entering. At the end of the day, you can't be like everyone's cup of tea essentially, and you can't fall into a box that somebody already has set up for you, right? So I find myself a little more comfortable in adulthood.
Like Cassandra said, growing up, I tried to fit into the bubble that was already made for me. Like my sisters are really good at soccer. I have to be really good at soccer. I'm horrible at soccer. But I'm not even really good. I'm okay at wrestling. But that was a really hard sport that I had to sell my dad on, especially since in high school, it was a boys sport technically. So for all of my I think I started wrestling 8th grade. So 8th grade to high school, I only wrestled against guys. And that was a really hard sell for my dad. He's like, well, how about you do this? How about you do that? And I'm like, well, I'm not good at any of those other sports. I'm okay at this one, and it's fun. So that was probably the one thing where I think I had to stay kind of grounded in what I wanted to do and not fit into the bubble that my dad had already set out for me. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those stories. I feel, as you're kind of reflecting and sharing your different kinds of experiences, I feel that there's a lot of richness in experiences and wisdom that you've probably kind of picked up over the years. And I'm wondering if this is, as we're kind of coming to a close, I have one final question, and it's about inspiring the next generation. So when you were talking about, I just thinking about all the different things that you can say to younger people or even older people as you inspire others to kind of continue seeking those relationships and really trying to be your authentic self as much as possible and bringing in different, parts of your culture and experiences to your whole self and being present in it. So my question is, what advice would you give young Latinx individuals in rural communities who are aspiring to build wealth in its many forms? So wealth, including financial wealth, cultural wealth, generational wealth, that's stories passed down from your generations, and how would you pass that on?
So I feel like for me, some advice that I would give right off the bat, and I feel like it also kind of feeds back into what my parents have taught me, right? You won't be able to build off of what you already have if you aren't already taking care of what you have, right? Like, for example, if your dream car is, I don't even know dream cars. I don't know. Maybe you want to drive a Camaro. I don't know, you guys. But you're not taking care of I don't know. For me, I drive a Chevy, a Cobalt 2008. If I'm not taking care of that already, how do I expect myself to be in that next phase of life, right? Or if you're really dreaming for a home, how do you expect to live in that home and take care of that home if you're not already taking care of the 600 square foot apartment that you already have, right? So for me, I think that's something to share with you all, right? Make sure to take care of what you have and just continue to build and build off of that. Like I said, foster those networks and just keep going, I feel like keep in mind your roots as well. Keep in mind that everybody brings something new to the table. And at the end of the day, be true to who you are and hold true to who you are. And I know right now it's hard, saying that to students where you're like, I kind of just want to go with the flow. I want to be able to fit in. But it gets easier as you grow up and into adulthood.
I want to add something what Sandra said. I did go with the flow. And I actually my parents, when I was 20, I'm 30 now, I was 24, 25, something like that. And they were like super worried because they were like, Sandra, you need to choose a career. You need to start like working. You need to, focus on your future. Like, what are you going to do? And I was just traveling with my grants, like I was just, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Like, I think one advice that I would give is you have to figure out what makes you happy. Like, we have very limited time on this earth, right? What is important to you, right? So for example, for me, it's important to travel, be with my family, etc., right? So for example, I know I have a job here, right? But for months out of the year, I'm not on contract, right? So technically, I have 4 months of the year that I can go back and be with my parents, right? So try to find ways to compensate one thing, your responsibility to yourself, to having a job, to be able to pay your house and your bills and all that stuff, but also have a personal goal of what do I want to do with my time? Because thinking about that my goal is to work, like living day to day, right? Personally, I feel that's not a way to enjoy your life. You need to have, what is your goal, right? How do I get that goal, right? And yeah, that would be my advice. My other advice, start your credit score soon. And I know it's like more towards the money wealth stuff, but being an immigrant, I didn't know what the credit score was, right, when I arrived here. So, we never use credit cards. I never seen my family use credit cards. So I didn't know what a credit card was, and I knew what a credit card was. The credit score is the thing that I didn't know. And I opened an account, and I remember I had to give $200 so they could trust me. The bank could trust me with paying that credit card back. And yes, so try to find all these things or these practices that richer people have. Like, for example, open an IRA. You can open that if you have earned any income this year. You can open an IRA and put there up to $7,000. You invested and let it sit there, and every month just keep putting more money, right? That's super easy to do. I bet anyone here can spare like $50, right? And I hope I'm not mistaken, but $50, okay, put $50, that's great. And the sooner you start, the more money you're gonna get at the end, because the more time has it had the money to compound and grow. So that's one of the things that I talked with my family about this, and my mom is like, what is this? This kind of stuff, this kind of accounts that I'm talking about, they don't exist in Spain. And if they do exist, they're very heavily taxed, right? So start like Googling IRAs. If your job has a 401k, what is a 401k? How can I get into that? How to get a good credit score, all that stuff. Because I feel that that's like super important, like to meet your goal, right? Remember the goal that we were talking about before? That goal, right? The money is not the goal. The money is something, it's a way to get to the goal, right?
So the advice I would give is practice in your community. Community support is very important. Even though you live in a rural town, you don't know who knows who. And that can be your next big opportunity, because the world is really small. So networking and finding like people that can help out with scholarships or grants, or like just applying to colleges, is really helpful. And then also ensuring Latinx students have a voice. And sorry, I have my notes. Let me. Latinx students have a voice in the community as well. And if it's challenging or you can't find a voice, start it up yourself. Start a program, a club, anything. Just because getting your voices heard and involved is super important, and you don't know who's going to hear it or who's interested in wanting and willing to help you out with that. So yeah.
So picking off of what they all said, my biggest advice is just to be happy. Yes, this is us talking about what we did and how we built wealth with financial success, our culture success. But the biggest thing I want to let you guys know that I didn't know, money's nice, but it's not the end of the world if you don't have it. I want to say like 2-3 weeks ago, I met this really nice homeless guy. He's happy. He said he's the happiest he's ever been in his life. And he's homeless. I don't really know where he lives. But he's happy and he's having the best time of his life. And I'm over here crying because I accidentally spent $600 on my couch instead of making the $100 payment. I was like, oh, I can't eat for the rest of the month. That was my mistake, but yeah, so it's like it's paid off now, so I don't have to worry about it. But like in that small little thing where I was like, I made that one small mistake. Instead of paying $160, I think I ended up typing in like 1,600, and then it only took 600, like the total that was on there. So that, I literally came to work after lunch, I was crying. My boss is like, what is wrong? And I was like, well, I made a really dumb mistake. And then she's like, and she was shocked for me, and so we cried about it, and then I was fine. But like that small little mistake could have just put me in debt even more than I already was. But this homeless guy is happy with the fact that I just bought a McDonald's. Like, one small little thing made his whole entire day, and he's happy and living his best life. So I just want all you guys to take what you can from what we've said, and if you're happy living paycheck to paycheck and that works for you, then that works for you. If you want to build a future, that's where you build relationships and connections. So anything you want to do in life, you can do it.
You just have to find your way, right?
Yeah, you just got to figure out what way works for you, and if that works for you, then it works for you.
And I think when you're finding your way, if you can bring other folks with you and help lift other, your community members and your family members and friends kind of to like join on that journey, I think that'd be amazing. But we are at time. I really appreciate you sitting up here on stage in front of everybody else, sharing your lived experiences and your stories. I really hope that that's kind of added, a different layer, richness to this experience. And I also just, personally just really appreciate you all centering the humanness of this experience that we're all kind of sharing. It's so easy, I feel like, to kind of get caught up in the processes and the policies and number one, number two, and number three, without thinking about that human component. But so I just really appreciate you adding your experiences kind of to that story of today. So thank you so much. And if you can join me in thanking our storytellers for sharing their stories, that'd be great.
Okay. Hello, everybody, over here again. Can we do one more round of applause for these storytellers? It takes a lot to be up here and be able to be open, be vulnerable, find connections. I know that I found many connections with their stories and the experience that I've had growing up. So thank you all for being here. And please make sure to connect with them, thank them. If you have any questions, there's opportunities to ask questions later on. So please feel free to connect with them at any moment or any of one of us. So as we kind of go on, we want to go on and talk about that we'll have a brief break here, another 15-minute break, so y'all can transition, use the restroom, get more coffee, do whatever you need to do before we transition into our workshops. With that, I do want to talk about our workshops today. We have 4 great workshop presenters that will be talking about their expertise and their knowledge that they want to share with all of us. The 4 that we have this year are led by Northeast Oregon Network, NEON, Oregon Rural Action, ORA, Northeast Oregon Economic Development District, NEOEDD, got it this time, and EOU's Latino Impact Action, or Latino Impact Group Club. These workshops offer attendees practical skills around asset building, community building, information around resources that are available for our communities, and opportunity to engage in a cultural activity. The 4 workshops are as follows. The first one is asset building using individual development accounts, presented by Northeast Oregon Economic Development District. This workshop will be in Zabel 256, and don't worry, we will have people to guide you to Zabel in case you're new here, so please be on the lookout for one of us. The second workshop is Wealth Within Our Communities, Partnerships, Connections, and Outreach, presented by Teresa Aguilera and Lara Gao of Northeast Oregon Network. This workshop will be in Zabel 110. The third workshop is Seeds of Change, What Works, What Doesn't, and Creating a Sense of Belonging, presented by Zaira Sanchez of Oregon Rural Action. This workshop will be in Zabel 106. And the last, but certainly not least, workshop that we'll be doing is Ojo de Dios Weaving. This is the cultural activity workshop presented by EOU's Latino Impact Student Club. And this workshop will be out here in the McKinsey lobby where we all met in the morning. These workshops will be occurring concurrently and will begin at 11:45 and finish around 12:30 p.m. Please try to arrive a few minutes early so our presenters can start on time. If you arrive at a workshop and find that it's full, we ask you to select a different workshop. And given that there's a handful of people here, please make sure to try to spread evenly with all of our presenters. They took a lot of time to get these ready and present to all of us, so I want to make sure we can be respectful and get those room filled. So other than that, Juan, please let us know what we do after our workshops.
I can do that. Once the workshops have ended, please make your way back here to Mackenzie Theater lobby, right out here for lunch, and that will be a buffet-style taco bar, which will begin at 12:30. Once you've fixed yourself a plate, we encourage you to find ways to connect with your fellow conference participants, and please be sure to return to Mackenzie Theater around 1:45, as we like to share some final thoughts and close our time together. A couple of final notes and reminders before we head to the workshop sessions. Please take a moment to visit our partner organizations at their informational tables right outside of the lobby, in the lobby here. This is an excellent opportunity to engage with organizations and people who are doing on-the-ground work within our communities to learn about their programs, resources, and services that they offer. As we mentioned just a few minutes ago, as part of this year's Conéctate conference, we are honored to invite you to join the Latino Impact Student Club community ofrenda in celebration of Dia de los Muertos. The community ofrenda is set up in the Mackenzie Theater lobby as soon as you walk out these two doors here. Please join us as we connect, honor, and remember loved ones through this vibrant and culturally significant tradition. Whether you are familiar with Dia de los Muertos traditions or are participating for the first time, this ofrenda offers a unique chance to join together in reflecting on the lives and legacies of those who have come before us. We hope you will join us for this meaningful experience during Conéctate. That's it from us now. We'll see you back here around 12:30 for lunch. Thank you.
Hello? Okay, so sorry. One last announcement before we move on. Next year's Conéctate, we wanted to invite our next community partners that will be hosting Conéctate. Will be at Treasure Valley Community College in Ontario, Oregon. And I want to invite Brenda onto stage to kind of give some remarks on that.
Yes, so I'll let everyone leave here shortly. So I just want to let everybody know next year we'll be hosting Conéctate at Treasure Valley Community College. We are excited to host everyone, and we hope that we can see everyone. We will be keeping everyone in the loop in regards to travel. I know it's going to be longer distance for you all, so but we'll go ahead and make those accommodations as needed. But we'll go ahead and keep you all in the loop. My colleague, and some of you may know him, Daniel Liera, he's also a part of Conéctate, and he wasn't able to make it tonight. Unfortunately, we also, TVCC folks will be heading out shortly. Some of us have a gala to attend tonight, so we do just need some extra time, especially the ladies, to get ready tonight. So we really want to thank all the Conéctate folks who were able to put Conéctate together, and I look forward to seeing you all next year. So thank you.
Enjoy your break.